except for the motorcycles in the back. Is it still breaking up? That's crazy. I'm in the backyard, but I should have plenty of... All right, somebody else give me a read. Is that better? Okay. We have one yes, one no. Better now. Okay. All right. Okay, good. Hi, everybody. Oh, I have a topic. We're going to have to deal with me without my headset. And I have loud cars that come by my drive, by my road. I'm sitting under my apricot tree that is now, let's see if I can tip it up, now becoming, hold on, loaded with apricots. So that's very exciting. We're about to have a tree loaded with pomegranates, and eventually, hopefully, a tree loaded with figs and a bush. I want us to spend some time today in the geopathic nature of our body. I'll start with a story because I'm a storyteller. And I'll attempt to pause between cars so you can hear me. But you know how you sometimes catch on to things by the process of elimination. So a couple of days ago, I have a very strong wind element and I have a very strong fire element. Thanks to Shasta for the fire. Had the wind element a long time. So Wednesday, my hands started quivering. I knew it wasn't physical, and I had kind of goosebumps, and I only get that when something's happening to the earth, something's going on, at least in my experience, of a major proportion. Even if we don't ever feel it, even if we don't have an event on where we're standing. And on our WhatsApp link for the field of Tantra Mat, somebody posted the astrology from Molly McCord, which is actually really good. So I listened to it and I'm like, no, whatever I'm picking up on, whatever's got my body going. And believe me, it isn't like it had a physical problem. It was just highly, like my feet were quivering and my hands were quivering and my body was just sort of generally quivering on the inside. And and I said, no, whatever I'm picking up on, it's not celestial, and it's not me in regard to the planets or the stars. It's something else, and it's not about my personal emotional or psychological experience. So that was just curious to me because it fit really well with a lot of people, and it truly did. And then this morning when I woke up, I was laying in bed, and I have this way of being that starts to gather stamina. It's the only way I know how to talk about it. I start to gather stamina. And it definitively comes with an expectation of needing that stamina. I think I would say, here comes another loud car. I think I would say in the framework of the work of Tantra Mat that I have a very strong sentient intelligence, and I have a way that I don't go psychological on myself. If I feel a ripple in the field or a disturbance in my gut or a quivering in my skin, I mostly get really quiet because I just finished writing a series of chapters on empathy and empathic response and the emotional nature of empathic response. And actually, it felt really good to get it said. Something I've kind of lived with for a long time. But to get it said helped me. And I don't know if it'll be valuable for others or even comprehensible, but it was I could I could track it by saying it. I could see how it all laid out for me, and in an empathic response, it's a part of our geopathic nature, our earth body, that human beings, for the most part, don't tend to, and it's an indigenous thing. And it's empathic in the sense that you begin to register the earth in your vibrational field, in the um, matter of the body and the nervous system of the mother, uh, and you go still. I may have to move. I'm going to walk you all across to the other side. I may have to move from here. So just hold on. Oh, they're going to be working in there. We have we'll do our best. Hold on a minute. Sorry about that. I'm going to try to switch stations. Hang on. No, it's not going to let me change to the other internet. I may shut the internet off if this keeps going, but if we all just kind of hold the field, I think we'll do fine. So the second thing that happens is this thing about human beings, when they carried this geopathic capacity, when they were part of the intelligence of the earth. And if they knew, Ireland is like that too, the ancient Irish, and if they knew a tsunami was coming, for instance, they'd kind of prepare for it. They prepare not to try to protect themselves at all costs, but more to realize it might be their end time. The point is, it was rich. It was rich. The life and death were rich with meaning. Being alive was well lived, and that moment of death was well given. And I notice there's a similarity between when I begin to pick up, usually I pick up on the rumblings of the fire in the belly of the mother and the effect it has, like on the shifting of the plates, and not I don't so much pick up on the earthquake aspect. It's more the inner earth aspect that I have a tendency to be in the mind of, and the mind is in my body. So the point was that I woke up this morning with my hands trembling and my feet sort of like padded in soft cotton, and my gut in a vibrational, not a vibrational phenomenon of fear or not that, just the vibrational feeling like a drum that's been lightly drumming. And I went quiet because I knew the earth was about to speak. And then I read the post that Maru posted about the dormant volcano and the micro earthquakes that have been happening in southern Mexico regarding that volcano. And I don't know if you all know, I've got the hummingbird that's going to join us. We need to fill his hummingbird feeder again. But I don't know if you know, but Albuquerque's the caldera, the mountains, the Sandias and the Montanos and the Montaneros were all, they're all what's left of a gigantic volcano, just beyond measure. So it's one of the reasons I actually feel comfortable here, strangely enough. There's something about sitting in the fire world of the mother that is stabilizing for me. I'm aware it's very not stabilizing for a lot of people, but it's very stabilizing for me. And so I realized when I read that post that that's what I was picking up on, that I was picking up on the belly rumbling of the mother and the fire of the mother, and have anticipated that something might occur. So there's a dual nature in the geopathic nature of ourselves. The dual nature is we can do our day, like we have people coming in to fix our washer and replace our sink. It's gonna be beautiful. And so we have that going on, and then me doing Facebook Live out here, so I'm away from the sounds that they're needing to do. But at the same time, the geopathic nature of me is more like the rocks, more like the lava, more like the wind, more like the dirt. Trying to think what else. The more like these solider things of the earth. And I said, I'm just gonna talk about this morning. Can someone let me know if I'm still around? I think I am, but I don't know for sure. You can actually WhatsApp me, and I'll see it. I'll see it on the drop down if I'm still active. But I am still recording, so that's good. So the phenomenon of the geopathic body is really important because as we move forward in time, the Earth is the Earth is having a conversation all on her own with her fire element. Remember the revelation that the Earth will be the next phenomenon of the Earth is fire. And thanks, Liz. So I'm just offering, I said, okay, I'm just going to make this Facebook Live because human beings are so consumed with the human aspect of their living and their psychology, particularly, when they get disturbed by powers and forces greater than themselves. Not disturbed like an enemy, but disturbed like this geopathic aspect of the body starts to familiarize itself with an occurrence. It's not too different from smelling the air and knowing that you should probably, bring in the whatever you need to bring in because there's going to be rain. But then you sit down and at your window or sit outside under your canopy and be with the rain. It's not too different from that. But the one thing I know is that the geopathic body is getting our geopathic body. That means the material of our earth. Our body is made up of the materials of the earth as well as the cosmos. But the part of our bodies, like we have a nervous system, and the earth has a nervous system. We have a blood system, and the earth has a blood system. We see it in the lava of the volcano and the blood of the mother and the steam vents that open up, or the breath of the mother. And the nervous system is the movement of the plates, of the tectonic plates, and the movement of the inner earth. We're part of that mechanism. We're part of that world, and if it's possible, I'd very much like people not to miss out on that, because there is something about all the centuries that we've been told this is hell and that we can only find heaven without a body. We can only find heaven if we're not embodied or not mortal or not connected to the earth in some way. And yet something had us come here. I don't think people choose hell. I think hell is what we make it. So that's kind of my attempt this morning to present something that's so familiar to me, so a natural part of my nature. So it has me never be lonely. never feel absent from what loves me. Geopathically, I don't require a God in heaven. I don't even require a goddess in heaven. Those memories are more about ways of being that I know we've once been, these celestial, cosmological natures of being that I think we carry a role here, being those natures. So much has happened since I put I Magi and I Guardian at the gate in play, since I created time for those two matrices. So much has happened. I had a phone call last night and from someone who's going to be on I Guardian at the gate, and it was everything my mind was inside of that. I was not going to address this. I was not going to speak to this morning. It's too hard. It's too outside what people hold to be relative or even of interest. But when I followed the schematic of establishing the matrix, the spirals of being, that matrix formulated in a so above, so below calibration. And all I'm saying is we used to carry this kind of mind. For some reason, I seem compelled to have this conversation today. We didn't carry our central mind wasn't. If in truth we're not strictly earthbound, if our consciousness came here on behalf of this planet and her kind, if that's one of the possibilities, if we weren't caught in the karmic path of trying to fix things that we think have been broken, if we came with a consciousness that was a gathering time of the immortal natures of ourselves, that knew that they had to come in at a geopathic level, which is different than a cosmological level, that we had to come in as a substance of the earth herself. We had to be her. We had to register her blood and her nervous system and her, like my belly is registering her gurgling fire, and my feet are feeling the fuzz of the earth quivering. And it's almost like this gear shift happens. I'm trying to figure out how to put into words. It's almost like there's a gear shift where you're not quite human anymore. In the two matrices that have been called into time, I Magi and I Guardian at the gate, you could say they're archetypical consciousnesses that this combination of cosmological geopathic natures woke up in as, but realized they were. So it's just going to be very interesting. It's going to be curious that we. I'm gonna try and put my headset back on. I'm worried it's having a lot of electron. Point I want to make is that this nature of us is rising. And it has a place. It has a place here. The 7+ years that I had this thousand being that all led to this. All led to the development of a matrix within which a sense of self could rise. Okay. All right, guys, thanks. Has to untether from the circumstantial world that we're presently operating in, because the geopathic aspect of self is designed to align with the mother, the planetary mother, Gaia. I think it's stronger in women than men, but I could be wrong. There's a man that called me last night, deeply distraught about the fate of the world. But it won't rise in what I say. It'll rise, and I'm just giving it a place today. I'm just giving it a place. So imagine that you're, I don't know where you are. You're someplace. I don't know. Just got chai or coffee, or you're at the beach, or driving to the grocery store. I don't know, something like that. And then you just kind of know to stop your car, or to blank out the humanity around you. And that you're listening, and that your geopathic body is rooting in. It's like a rod, and that energy, that vertical energy, that like a pylon, or like a, can't think of the staff, like a kind of like a lightning rod, that you dismiss your human identity and you become part of something else. And what is that something else? It's an anchoring point that goes deep into the earth and high into the heavens. It's a state of state of being. It doesn't have an identity or a personality. It's part of the geopathic embodiment that you are. That is like I know the equation, the analogy. It's like the somebody write the name down. It's like the things they put in a nuclear reactor, these long poles. Because those long poles in the nuclear reactor keep it providing energy without exploding. Whatever those are is what I'm talking about. I call it holding. You just stop and hold. And it's not really we don't know in order to what, or we don't know the causal aspect of it. We just feel ourselves stopping and being like those rods in a nuclear reactor. And maybe we could investigate that analogy to maybe even get some idea of what we might experience and what we might be part of, and what the geopathic body, we think about the geopathic body, about how the Schumann resonance affects us and how we're affected by the earth, not how we are part of her activity, part of her. We have a mind that registers in, sometimes in our body, sometimes in this sense of got our attention, that is that geopathic intelligence. And it goes out beyond cause and effect. But it has to do with those pylons in a nuclear reactor, exactly, that keeps the reactor, keeps the atomic energy from obliterating a wide section of an area. I also go back to that movie, I don't know if it's called City of Angels or something like that, where every morning all the angels that had become human would go and stand facing the sun. And they'd watch facing where the sun was rising. And they would hold very, very still until the sun rose. And then once the sun rose, they went about their day. So it's in that energy. It's in that energy that had those celestial beings that became mortal every morning go and face the sun together and hold very still until the sun rose. It lives in that. It lives in this sense of odd disturbance of time, where our consciousness, this geopathic nature that we're part of, we're moving with it like a wave would move in the ocean. It's not human. But it is part of our being. It's not about the human world. It's about the movement of a greater consciousness than a human being. And being part of that greater consciousness that lives in the primordial forces of this planet. And I think it has to do with reformation. I think she's reforming. Like, I know I'm safe here. I know the Rio in the next 6 years the water will get higher here. I know the underground rivers will have more flow again soon. But why? Why would what would be my consciousness? Would my consciousness be I can survive? I can stay alive? No, not me. It would more be because I came here to be in on this time. I came here to be in on it. I think there are others that came here to be in on this time too. I think some of those humans that came to be in on this time are not people-centric. I think they're earth-centric. maybe even celestial or cosmological centric, or maybe even beyond that, a consciousness that is part of the devotion to this planet and to her form. But I think that devotion is rising. And I think these different intelligences that human beings carry that are part of those that geopathic intelligence is rising too. And I think that the less we have to interpret things, the less we have to have meaning, and the less we're interested in our own survival and more interested in being present to what there is to be present to and to be of what there is to be part of. I think that's really significant right now. I think that's really significant. I know I'm changing. I'm grateful. I have been working with human beings, well, since 19. I'm 75, so 56 years, if my math's right. And now I'm definitely reforming to be back in the skin, the blood, the nervous system, the gut, even the beautiful thank you. That's it. That's it, Yvonne. See if I can open up Seymour. I can't. That's correct. Whatever that is, it's about absorbing something. Just absorbing it, I think, so that it evens out. It's like it evens out across the planet. And one area doesn't have to take the full hit. I think that. I think it's along those lines. But because it's happening to us, we can't walk around, well, I guess we could, obviously, walk around ignoring it. People get, but I don't know if anybody's noticed. That's why there was something missing in what Molly said, even though she said everything really applicably about how we were being influenced and at the effect of certain cosmological events. But we're also not at the effect. We're also part of the intelligence of these control rods, these tubes that we are, that have a high absorption rate. That's I think we're onto something here. I guess this was an investigative, yes. What Yvonne has posted fits with my experience. I noticed in these chapters I'm writing on empathy, etc., my focus is more on what a human being is really designed to be. And we are the mediators. We are the control factor. We are the balance maker, not in our doing, but in our consciousness of, see, I can stand, I started to say I can stand anywhere, but it doesn't quite go like that. I can sit here in my yard and I can feel the internal earth. And I know that my paying attention helps something. Because you could say that it has something to do with the survival of our species, that I certainly know that in hurricanes that I have been part of simply of the water and the wind and the earth to kind of show the hurricane where the least effect on human beings is, where it can help reset the geopathic field of she can help reset. She can reset her geopathic field, and it's almost like pointing a finger and said, can you just miss this by 5 miles? It's a little heavily populated. But it sounds silly and new agey and when you say it, but then how come I've spent a huge amount of my life in that intelligence, and how come there's been and it's printed out? How come? It wasn't because the earth is our enemy, it's because she needs our consciousness in these times. And the other last thing I want to share, thank you for your indulgence this morning. I'm obviously in an altered state. I find it pleasant to be in these states of being. They carry more weight, have more substance than in everyday life. They move mountains and partner with forces and move with the movement of the larger systems resetting themselves and making sure that this planet stays paradise. So two other things I want to bring up. One is that this old nursery story, a children's story, and the sun's coming through the tree. I don't know if you can see it on my hair, but about this goose that knew she had to bake pies, but nobody helped her make the pies, but they all wanted to eat them. And a lot of human beings are waiting to see how things turn out here. Good luck. Not realizing that human engagement is a gigantic part of what will have things turn out here. And it lives in our geopathic intelligence, in our union with the mother. I don't know what you call her. She's been my mother for so long. She saved my life when I was young. I had all these strange diseases and nobody could. I had all this, my antibodies were up to hell and gone, and Frank used to dig me a trench in my mother's garden, and it had an Indian blanket. I don't even know where it came from. And I'd go and sneak out at night and sleep on the earth. So she's kept me alive a long time, and I am part of her, and she's part of me. So I feel kind of alien when I try to talk about it. I feel like I'm in the wrong culture trying to talk about it. Except that I can see it. Time is changing. This stillness is coming upon us, this not wanting to be so beta driven. I'm late for a very important date. I cannot say hello, goodbye. I'm late. There's more the delta and the theta, and the states are getting stronger and stronger. And the delta states is trance states where we can pick up on beyond our beta mind, which is our doer mind. And the theta is that part of our mind and the upper part of the brain that connects into greater consciousnesses. And it's upon us. It's happening. And I think I am a little frenetic about it because I think I have this driven concept that if enough of humanity doesn't not get with the program or even become enlightened, but honor maybe the intelligence of our geopathic natures, honor the earth, and that the very substance of our bodies are part of that, and line up with the mother. I think that's it. Like those nuclear rods. I'll read that. I'll read that, Yvonne. That's really important to me because our consciousness, when we can read something or we can register something, our consciousness becomes a player. Our identity trying to figure out what to do is just a crapshoot. But when we register something as that fits, that clicks, our consciousness goes in play. It moves, it becomes a player. I hope I'm making sense. Well, I sort of hope. Y'all caught me in a moment where our apricots are maturing and our pomegranates are starting to form, and I'm sitting out in my yard in a sacred part of it. We're going to take. I have all these. This is my private rock, but we have all these rocks and gems, and we have one more section to do in the yard, and then we're going to matrix the yard. And how we do that is particularly these particular pieces that Blue Wolf brought us from Utah. We're going to go through the perimeter of the yards of this yard, which is quite large. It's 3/4 of an acre. The whole yard is, and establish points where we put these different stones and rocks down, so we can basically. I don't know that terminology either. It's like being a dome, a receptor dome, like a sort of an upside down satellite dish. I did it with Georgia and Maryland's property also. Georgia and I did, and then I waited 3 months before I left so that Georgia and I could slip out of holding the field there, and we had it established so she could hold it. See, all these things are my consciousness. These are things I pay attention to. They're part of larger systems. But the larger systems are where everything's happening right now. Human beings are just busy squabbling, or running for cover, or praying. They survive. But the larger systems are afoot, big, big, big time. And my consciousness is more part of those larger systems than the everyday activity of human beings, or even my own humanity. Imagine trying to write a book with all that going on. But somehow I got the 5 chapters on empathy done, and now I'm finishing a chapter on the mental perception today. And so I just thought today that I would introduce into the field of the sacred space for resting courage our geopathic intelligence, and that maybe what we're experiencing with time, maybe what we're experiencing with body, has more to do with our geopathic intelligence that is so unknown to us anymore than we realize. And that just maybe some of us are part of greater intelligences, that we carry these archetypes that are trying to awaken in us beyond the egoic playing field of the everyday human. That's why that phone call last night was so significant. Out of the blue, a man called me really distraught about what he'd figured out about one of the dilemmas coming down our path. And I knew that he was rising, and I guarding at the gate, and somebody just threw a glass bottle out their window, their car. God bless him. Obviously, I'll be picking it up after this call. So whatever you find in your own soul, in your own being, humanity has been so separate from what it's part of for so long. It really takes something to restore being part of something, more than being at the effect of something. It really takes something to even realize that for you, the earth is separate from you. Maybe even your children, maybe even your family. Not to make yourself wrong or crazy, just that we've been swimming in a sea of separation for so long that to reunite our molecules and our consciousness and the substance of our flesh back into the substance of the flesh of the planet, it doesn't seem even user-friendly to a lot of people. But we are part of this. Just because our mental mind separated us to survive, for us to survive, I think we've matured. So if you find yourself coming out of Starbucks or Macy's and you suddenly feel like you just have to stand still, you just have to be that nuclear rod, just do it. Do it because I asked you to. If you feel yourself, it's so important. It's important beyond measure. And it's also beyond our brain capacity, it's past our bandwidth of perception. Only the body can tell. Only the vibratory substance matter of the body carries in the geopathic intelligence. Our mental mind has no, our mental perception has no perception there. It's all in the body. Like when they were in Shasta, I can feel every rock they crawled on. I can feel the earth registering their footsteps because they were part of the earth. They were part of her substance and she was part of theirs. And it matters. And yes, it matters for the future of human beings. So welcome to my world. This is my backyard for those of you who weren't around. It's my little dragon right there. It's Owen. You know, some things are so real that when we register those things so real, not only are we never the same again, but what we've considered a human life to be changes forever. Namaste.